Hi students, welcome to today's class. Today we are going to solve exemplar questions of NCERT chapter 8, which is aldehyde, ketones and carboxylic acids. So today we are going to solve question 8.3, 8.4, 8.6, 8.11, 8.12, 8.20, 8.21 and 8.27. This is the disclaimer. So let's start with the first question. So first we are going to start with NCERT exemplar question 8.3. So it is a multiple choice question about the correct order of increasing acidic strength. So 4 options are given to you and you have to choose the correct among the 4 given options. So let's start with the solution. So you have to tell the correct order of increasing acidic strength, that which one is more acidic. So before starting with the question, you need to remember one thing, that acidic strength tells us how easily a substance can donate a proton or H+. So a substance which will easily donate a proton will be more acidic compared to others. So first we are going to talk about ethanol. So ethanol, it is a simple alcohol. Now if I talk about ethanol, it is the least acidic among the compounds. Okay. That is because its conjugate base, what is the conjugate base of ethanol? It is the ethoxide ion. That is when it loses a proton. So its conjugate base, that is ethoxide ion, it doesn't have any resonance stabilization. Okay, in other words, I can say that the negative charge after losing a proton, it is stuck in one place. So I can say that the negative charge, it is localized on the oxygen only. So if you look at this particular diagram of localized ethoxide ion, then you can see that when this ethanol loses a proton, it gives you a ethoxide ion. Okay. So you can see that this negative charge on oxygen, it is localized on oxygen only. Okay. That is, it is not resonance stabilized. Okay. Now if I talk about phenol, then phenol has an aromatic ring which is attached to the oxygen. Okay. Phenol is generally more acidic than ethanol. The reason is that the phenoxide ion, which forms when phenol loses a proton, is stabilized by the resonance. Okay. This means that the negative charge, it is spread out over the aromatic ring, and which makes this ion more stable. So I can say in phenoxide ion, the negative charge is delocalized across the aromatic ring, and this delocalization, it helps stabilize the ion. So if we look at this particular resonating structures of phenol, now this is a phenol in which a hydroxyl group is attached to this aromatic ring. When this phenol loses a proton, it gives you a corresponding phenoxide ion. Okay. And if you see this negative charge on oxygen, it is not localized. It is delocalized. Okay. It is delocalized into this aromatic ring. And you can see the resonating structures. Okay. So this negative charge on this oxygen, okay, it is resonance stabilized, and this negative charge is delocalized along this aromatic ring. So this charge helps to this delocalization, it helps stabilize the ion, okay, and which increases this acidity of phenol compared to ethanol. Now we will see about acetic acid. Now acetic acid is CH3COOH. It is an example of a carboxylic acid. So if you see the acidic proton in acetic acid, it is located on COOH group, which is called the carboxyl group. So you can say that when this proton is released, okay, we consider the release of proton. If this proton is released more easily, we can say that the compound is more acidic. So if I talk about acetic acid, then it is, if we compare it to phenol, then acetic acid is stronger than phenol. Okay, the reason is that when acetic acid loses a proton, okay, that is this proton, when it loses a proton, it forms a carboxylate ion, and that carboxylate ion is stabilized by the resonance. Okay, that means a negative charge, it can be spread out over atoms, which make the ion more stable and a stronger acid. Now the resonance stabilization is especially effective in carboxylate ion. Why? Because they have equivalent resonating structures. Okay, so this is important that they have equivalent resonating structures. This means that the negative charge, it is shared equally between two oxygen atoms, which is further increasing the stability. Okay, so if you look at the resonating structures, this is when the carboxylic acid loses a proton, it forms a carboxylate ion. And you can see that the negative charge on oxygen, it is delocalized between two oxygen atoms. Okay, so they have equivalent resonating structures. That is why the acetic acid is more acidic if compared to phenol. Next, we'll talk about chloroacetic acid. Now, this compound is similar to acetic acid, but the difference is it has a chlorine atom attached. Now, this chloroacetic acid is most acidic among the given options. This is because of the presence of chlorine. The chlorine is a strong electron withdrawing group. So, it pulls the electron density away from rest of the molecule, and as a result, it makes easier for the acid to lose a proton. Okay, and we know this thing that electron withdrawing group, they increases the acidity. Now the chlorine stabilizes the negative charge on the conjugate base after the acid loses a proton. So this stabilization, it makes it even easier for the acid to donate a proton, and which increases its acidity. And we know this thing that most stable the conjugate base, the stronger is the acid. So if we talk about the resonating structures, then chloroacetic acid, they have two equivalent resonating structures, okay, which stabilizes the conjugate base. So if you look at this diagram, this is when this chloroacetic acid loses a proton, okay, and these are the resonating structures of the carboxylate ion. Okay, and you can see that the chlorine, it stabilizes the negative charge on the conjugate base because it has electron withdrawing nature. Okay, and also it has two equivalent resonating structures. That is, this negative charge on oxygen is delocalized between these two oxygen atoms. So if I summarize the increasing order of acidic strength, then we can say that chloroacetic acid is most acidic. Okay, then comes acetic acid, then is phenol, and last we have ethanol. Okay, so ethanol is least acidic and chloroacetic acid is most acidic because of the strong effect of chlorine atom. Okay, is it clear? Okay. Now let's move on to the next question. The question is, a compound which is PHO C double bond O pH can be separated by the reaction of. First is phenol and benzoic acid in presence of sodium hydroxide. Then is phenol and benzoyl chloride in presence of pyridine. Next is phenol and benzoyl chloride in presence of ZnCl2. And D is phenol and benzaldehyde in presence of palladium. So you have to tell it can be separated by which of these reactions. Now let us see the solution part. So phenol, it reacts with benzoyl chloride in pyridine to form phenyl benzoate. Okay, so this is an example of organic synthesis reaction where we are combining an alcohol and an acid chloride. Okay, so you can see that phenol over here is combining with benzoyl chloride, which is an acid chloride. Now this reaction is known as Schotten-Bowman reaction. Okay, so it is named reaction in organic chemistry, which is often used to prepare esters from phenols and acid chloride. Okay, so this is Schotten-Bowman reaction. Now let us look at the reaction scheme. So here you can see that phenol reacts with benzoyl chloride with pyridine to form phenyl benzoate and hydrochloric acid as a byproduct. Okay, so this is the reaction scheme. Now we have seen pyridine over here. So let us discuss the role of pyridine. So pyridine is not just a solvent here. Okay, it plays a crucial part in making this reaction proceed more smoothly. So pyridine acts as a base in this reaction. This means that it helps to neutralize acids which are formed during the process. Okay, so you can see this hydrochloric acid which is formed. So it helps to neutralize the acid which is formed during the process. So in this case, it will interact with the hydrochloric acid which is produced. So specifically, pyridine removes the hydrochloric acid which is formed in the reaction. Okay, so by doing this, it prevents the acid from interfering with the reaction or causing unwanted side reactions. So I can say this makes the overall process more efficient and cleaner. Now we will talk about the mechanism that how is this reaction happening. So there are two steps which are involved in this mechanism. First is the deprotonation of phenol. Deprotonation means the removal of hydrogen ion or H plus ion from phenol. Okay, so you will see that this pyridine, it has a nitrogen which has its lone pair. Okay, so it will take up this proton from this phenol. Okay, so this activates the phenol, making it a better nucleophile or an electron donor. So when this will take up a proton from this, pyridine, you will see this pyridine which nitrogen has a lone pair. When we'll take this proton from this phenol, it will form a corresponding phenoxide ion and a pyridinium ion. Okay, you will see a positive charge on this nitrogen. So first is the deprotonation of phenol. So if you see over here, pyridine, this acts as a base. This means it accepts a proton from this phenol. Okay, and removing this acidic hydrogen atom. So pyridine takes up the proton and makes this phenol more reactive. So as a result, we form a phenoxide ion which is much stronger nucleophile than phenol. Now at the same time, the pyridine, it becomes a pyridinium ion by accepting a proton. Okay, now you will see that phenoxide ion which is formed, this is able to attack the next reactant. So now we will see this step 2, which is the nucleophilic attack. Okay, so nucleophile is a species that donates an electron pair. So in this case, you will see that this phenoxide, it acts as a nucleophile and it will attack this electrophilic carbon of benzoyl chloride. So phenoxide ion, it uses its lone pair of electrons to attack this carbonyl carbon, okay, which is electrophilic because this carbon has a partial positive charge, okay. And you will see a new bond is formed between the oxygen of phenoxide ion and the carbonyl carbon. So you will see this bond, which is the oxygen of phenoxide ion and the carbonyl carbon, a new bond is formed. At the same time, the pi electrons from this carbon double bond oxygen, it moves to the oxygen atom, which makes it temporarily negatively charged. Okay. Finally, the pi electrons on the oxygen, they come back to reform this double bond. And as a result, what happened? This chloride or this chloride ion leaves. And this completes the substitution process, which results in the final product, which is phenyl benzoate. Okay. So this is how you got phenyl benzoate. Now let us move to the next question. You have to tell that Cannizzaro reaction is not given by. So you have been given 4 options and you have to choose the correct option. That Cannizzaro reaction is not given by. Okay. So first question is that which compounds do not give this reaction. First we need to know that which compound or what is the criteria that which compounds do not give this reaction. So first let us list the main conditions for Cannizzaro reaction. So the most important condition is that the aldehyde must not have any alpha hydrogen. So alpha hydrogen should be absent. And what are alpha hydrogens? Alpha hydrogens are the hydrogens that are attached to the carbon next to the carbonyl group. Okay. Usually I can say aromatic aldehydes like benzaldehyde, they meet this condition. Okay. So your condition is that it should not have alpha hydrogen. So next is a strong base is needed for this reaction to proceed. For example, concentrated sodium hydroxide or NaOH. This is commonly used. So base, it helps in transfer of electrons during the reaction. Now this reaction also requires mild conditions, meaning we do not need high temperatures or pressures. Now what happens during this Cannizzaro reaction? It involves both oxidation and reduction, which is happening at the same time. So you can call it type of a redox reaction. Now what is getting oxidized and what is getting reduced? So specifically, one molecule of aldehyde is oxidized to form a carboxylic acid. And another molecule is reduced to form an alcohol. Okay, so one is getting oxidized to get acid and another is getting reduced to get alcohol. Now, the condition is that you should, that Cannizzaro reaction undergo when there is no alpha hydrogen present. Now, these are the 4 options which is given to you. If you look at this A option, okay. So if you see over here there is no alpha hydrogen present, okay. Because alpha hydrogen, it is the carbon which is next to the carbonyl group. The hydrogen of that carbon is alpha hydrogen. So you see over here there is no alpha hydrogen. Similarly, if you look at the B part, in B part also you will see there is no alpha hydrogen. C part also you will see there is no alpha carbon. If there is no alpha carbon, then there is also no alpha hydrogen. But in D part you can see there is alpha hydrogen. See, this is the carbon. If you see, Over here, this is the carbon which is next to this carbonyl group, and this is the hydrogen which is alpha hydrogen. So it has 3 alpha hydrogen. So Cannizzaro reaction undergo when no alpha hydrogen is present. So if you see in A, B and C, there is no alpha hydrogen. So they will undergo Cannizzaro reaction. Okay, so if you carefully look, there is no alpha hydrogen in A, B and C. So they will undergo Cannizzaro reaction. But in option D, that is this CH3CHO, there is alpha hydrogen. There are 3 alpha hydrogen. So I can say that this fourth one, that is this D part, it does not undergo Cannizzaro reaction. Okay, so is it clear? So you know, so you need to know that what is the main condition. Okay, so the key takeaway is that only aldehyde without the alpha hydrogen, they can participate in this reaction, because this D1, it has alpha hydrogen, so it will not undergo Cannizzaro reaction. Now let us move to NCERT question, exemplar question 8.11. So it is asked that which of the following compounds will give butanone on oxidation with alkaline KMNO4. Okay, so you have been given 4 options and you have to tell that which among these 4 will give butanone on oxidation with KMNO4. Is it butane 1-ol, butane 2-ol, both A and B, and none of this, none of these? Okay, so can you think of the right answer in this question? Okay, let us see now. So we are asked that which compound will give butanone when oxidized with alkaline KMNO4. Okay, so if we see KMNO4, then this is a strong oxidizing agent, which means it can add oxygen to other substances very much effectively. So we know that KMNO4 is a strong oxidizing agent. Okay, that means it can convert alcohols into more oxidized form. But it is important to note that not all alcohols react in a similar way. So if we focus on the type of alcohol, that is primary, secondary and tertiary, the way each type reacts with KMNO4 is different. Okay, that is primary, secondary and tertiary, the way they react with KMNO4 is different. So for primary alcohols like butane 1-ol, butane 1-ol is a primary alcohol. Why? Because the carbon to which your hydroxyl group is attached is further connected by one carbon atom only. So this is a primary alcohol. Now on oxidation, first it produces aldehyde, okay, which is butanaldehyde, and further oxidation leads to carboxylic acid. So that means butane 1-ol, okay, it oxidizes to butanoic acid. That means it does not stop at the ketone stage. So if you look at this butane 1-ol, see the carbon to which your hydroxyl group is attached is further connected by this carbon atom. So this is a primary alcohol. Now because KMNO4 is a strong oxidizing agent, so it directly oxidizes alcohol to carboxylic acid, that is butanoic acid. Okay, so this cannot be the right option because we have to get butanone, which is a ketone. Okay, now we know that secondary alcohols like this butane 2-ol, which is a secondary alcohol, it is oxidized to form butane 2-on. Okay, and this is also we can call butanone. So this is what we are looking for. So if you look this butane 2-ol, the carbon to which your hydroxyl group is attached is further connected by 2 carbons. One is this and one is this. So this is a secondary alcohol. So secondary alcohol, when oxidized in presence of KMNO4, it gives a ketone, which is butane 2-on. So you can see at second position, there is this carboxyl group. Okay, so butane to all, which is a secondary alcohol, it oxidizes to give butane to on. Okay, and if we talk about tertiary alcohol, then tertiary alcohol do not give any oxidation. Why? Because they lack alpha hydrogen. So because of this, they do not give any oxidation. Okay, so if we summarize, then we can say that option 2, which is butane to all, is the correct option, because only secondary alcohols give butanol when oxidized with alkaline KMnO4. Okay, because primary alcohols when oxidized gives carboxylic acids. Secondary alcohols when oxidized, they give a ketone. And tertiary alcohols do not show any oxidation. So that is why your second option, which is butane to all, is correct option. Now let us look at NCERT example question 8.12. It is asked, in Clemmensen reduction, carbonyl compound is treated with first zinc amalgam plus HCl, second sodium amalgam with HCl, third zinc amalgam with nitric acid, and D sodium amalgam with HNO3. So you have to tell that the carbonyl compound is treated with which among the following. Okay, now let us see the reaction. So first let us define the Clemmensen reduction. So if I talk, then this is a chemical reaction which is used to reduce carbonyl compounds. Okay, which means it converts aldehydes or ketones into simpler hydrocarbons. So specifically, Clemmensen reduction, it is used to reduce carbonyl compounds, okay, particularly in aldehydes or ketones. So these groups, the carbonyl compounds, have carbon atom which is double bonded to oxygen atom. Now let us talk about the reagents which are used in Clemmensen reduction. So first is zinc amalgam, okay, which is zinc metal which is mixed with mercury. So zinc, it acts as a reducing agent, helping to add hydrogen to the carbonyl group. Okay, and mercury, it helps the zinc work more efficiently. The second reagent which we need is hydrochloric acid or HCl. So what does this do? It provides an acidic environment which is needed for the reaction to proceed. So this combination of zinc amalgam and hydrochloric acid is crucial for the Clemmensen reduction. So if we look at the overall process, then in Clemmensen reduction, we treat the carbonyl compound with zinc amalgam and HCl. So carbonyl compound, it is mixed with zinc amalgam and HCl. Okay, so this zinc amalgam, it donates electrons, while the acid, it helps break bonds and facilitate the reaction. Okay, so if you see over here during the reaction, the carbonyl group, which is the C double bond O group, it is reduced to a methylene group, which is CH2. Okay, so it is reduced to a methylene group. This means that the double bonded oxygen, if you can see that this double bonded oxygen, it is removed and replaced by two hydrogens, changing the molecule from an aldehyde or ketone to a simple hydrocarbon. Now if we look at the general reaction, then you can see this aldehyde, which is RCHO, when it is treated with zinc amalgam in presence of HCl, it gives an RCH3. Okay, so here R is an alkyl group. So you can see that this aldehyde is being reduced to a methyl group, which is formed after the reduction. Okay, so this shows the removal of oxygen and addition of hydrogens. Next, if you see, this was an aldehyde, now this is a ketone. So when a ketone is treated with zinc amalgam in presence of HCl, okay, you get this type of compound. where your R and R dash, they are alkyl groups. Okay, and the C double bond O, which is the carbonyl group, is reduced to get a methylene group, which is CH2 group. Okay, so you can see how the carbonyl group, it is reduced in both aldehydes and ketones. Okay, so to sum up, I can say Clemenson reduction, it uses zinc amalgam and hydrochloric acid to convert carbonyl groups into hydrocarbons. Okay, by reducing them to this methylene group over here. Okay, now we will move on to the next question. Write a test to differentiate between pentane 2-on and pentane 3-on. So you have to give a test which can differentiate between these two. Okay. So if you look at this question, then the test which we are going to use is called the iodoform test. If you carefully look, pentane 2-on and pentane 3-on, both are the ketone. The difference is just the number, or I can say just the position where this carbonyl group is attached. Here you can see it is attached on the second carbon, and here it is attached on the third carbon. So the test which we will use is the iodoform test. Okay, so this test is designed to detect methyl ketones. Okay, methyl ketones, they are the compounds that have a CH3 group which is directly attached to the carbonyl carbon. Okay, so it is also positive. If I say iodoform test, then you also need to remember that it is also positive for secondary alcohols. Okay, that can be oxidized to methyl ketones. So if we talk about the substrate over here, then a methyl ketone is attached to a carbonyl carbon. Okay, a methyl ketone means the carbonyl group which is directly bonded to CH3 group. Okay, so this is important because only these compounds, they will react with the iodoform test. Example, if you see acetophenone and acetone, they both are methyl ketones because you can see that to this carbonyl group, a methyl group is attached. And here also to this carbonyl group, a methyl group is attached. Okay, so in acetophenone, CH3 group is attached to the carbonyl carbon. And in acetone also, both sides of the carbonyl CH3 groups are attached. So acetophenone and acetone, they give positive iodoform test. If we talk about the reagents that are used in the iodoform test, then the two main chemicals, they are iodine and sodium hydroxide. Okay, so first is the iodine, which is a yellow-brown solid or solution. So iodine is the source of the halogen which is needed for this reaction. Next is sodium hydroxide, which is NaOH. So sodium hydroxide is a strong base. Okay. So if you see over here, when iodine, it reacts with sodium hydroxide, they react to form sodium hypoiodide, which is NaOI. Okay, which is the actual reagent that reacts with methyl ketones. Okay. So if you see the reaction scheme, then carefully look at this example. Okay, this is pentane 2-on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 carbon atoms are there. And I will start numbering from this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see on the second carbon, this is C double bond O group. Okay, so if you'll see there, we have a methyl ketone. Okay, so this compound, that is pentane 2-on, this will give a positive iodoform test. Okay, so this will form a yellow PPT and correspondingly you will get sodium butanate. Okay, and if you look at this one, then in this compound, if you'll see, there are two ethyl groups which are attached. Okay, if you'll see, then this is pentane 3-on, and you can see there are two ethyl groups which is attached on both sides of this carbonyl group. So this will give a negative iodoform test. Why? Because here we don't have any methyl ketone. Okay, both sides we have ethyl group. So that is, it will give a negative iodoform test. Okay, so we can conclude that pentane 2-on, it forms a yellow precipitate which is called iodoform, okay, which has a distinctive antiseptic smell. So this positive results tells us that pentane 2-on reacts in this test. Okay, you need to remember that the yellow color and smell, they are the key indicators. And if on the other side, if we talk about pentane 3-on, then it does not form a yellow precipitate. So this test is negative for this compound. Okay, so this difference allows us to easily distinguish between pentane 2-on and pentane 3-on using the iodoform test. So I hope this question is clear. Now next question is, give the IUPAC name of the following compound. So this is a compound which is given to you and you have to give the IUPAC name of this compound. Okay, so this is the compound which is given to you. So can you identify the functional group which is present? If you clearly see, an aldehyde group is present. And you can see there is also a double bond which is present. So first, if we see the general IUPAC format, okay, then first we write the secondary prefix, okay, then we write the primary prefix, which is followed by word root, then we write primary suffix, and then we write secondary suffix, okay. So each of these components, they add details to the name. So this is the general IUPAC nomenclature format. Now we will identify one by one. So first, see, I have done the numbering, okay. That is, this carbonyl carbon gets the first number 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so this is, I have taken this chain, parent chain, and I have done the numbering. So first we will see the secondary prefix. So if I talk about secondary prefix, then there is no secondary prefix, okay, because in this case, the secondary prefix is none over here. Then we talk about primary prefix. Then in primary prefix, we see a phenyl group. This is a phenyl group which is attached at the third carbon. Okay, so the primary prefix is 3-phenyl. And the position number tells us where the group is attached to the main chain. So it is telling that on the third carbon, a phenyl group is attached. So this is a primary prefix. Next, we have word root. Okay, so if we see here 1, 2, 3, 3 carbon atoms are there. So the root word is prop, okay, which indicates a 3 carbon chain. Next, we have primary suffix. So primary suffix, if we see, then on second carbon, you will see there is some unsaturation present. Okay, that is, a double bond is present over here. Okay, so the primary suffix over here is 2-ene. And next we have secondary suffix. So secondary suffix here indicates the main functional group. So if we see over here, we have a aldehyde. So whenever an aldehyde is there, we replace the E of an alkane by al, which is Al. Okay, so that is secondary suffix is Al. So if we finally look the IUPAC nomenclature of this particular compound, then it is 3-phenyl prop 2N1Al. Okay, so 3 over here indicates that on third carbon a phenyl group is present. Okay, then you see prop 2-ene. So 2 indicates where unsaturation or double bond is present. Okay, and 1 over here indicates the position of the main functional group, which is this aldehyde group. So this is the IUPAC nomenclature of this particular compound. One thing which you need to remember, that when 2 vowels appear consecutively, then generally E is removed. Okay, for example, in this case, it is prop-ene because double bond is there. So E of this ene is removed and replaced by an over here, which is ONE in case of ketones. Okay, but whenever there is aldehyde, in that case, ENE, E of ENE is removed by al, which is AL. Okay, so whenever 2 consecutively vowels are coming, then generally E is being removed. Okay, ONE in case of ketone, and Al in case of aldehydes. Now, next question is, you have to arrange the following in decreasing order of the acidic strength and give the reason for your answer. So, you have been given these compounds and you have to arrange it in the decreasing order of the acidic strength. Okay. First, let's see the factors which determine the acidic strength. First, the factor is the ability of the compound to release proton, which is H plus ion. Okay. So, the molecule which easily loses a proton is more acidic. So, if we consider the stability of the conjugate base that is formed after the acid loses a proton. So, if the conjugate base is stable, the acid will be stronger, okay? Because the reaction will be more favorable. So, the stability, it often depends on how well the negative charge can be spread out or it can be delocalized. Now, another important factor is the presence of electron withdrawing group or electron donating group, okay? So, electron withdrawing group pulls the electron away, which stabilizes the conjugate base and increases the acidity. Okay, whereas the electron donating group, they just do the opposite. They make the acid weaker, okay, because they donate the electron density. Now we will apply all these factors into the above given compounds. First, let's start with this compound, which is FCH2COOH. So if you carefully look, we have a fluorine atom which is attached to the carbon which is next to the carboxyl group. So fluorine is highly electronegative, okay, which means it strongly attracts the electrons. Now because fluorine, it withdraws the electrons by the effect which is called inductive effect, okay, which means it pulls the electron density away from the rest of the molecule. And as a result, if it pulls the electron density, it makes it easier for the molecule to lose a proton. So, as a result, the conjugate base which is formed after losing a proton is stable because the negative charge is better dispersed. Okay? So, the increased stability means that this FCH2COOH is a stronger acid. Okay? Because this fluorine is electron withdrawing in nature, which withdraws the electron density and which stabilizes the conjugate base. Next, we will see ClCH2COOH. So, in earlier case, a fluorine was attached to the carbon next to this carboxyl group. In this case, you have chlorine which is attached. Okay. So, chlorine is also known for its strong electronegativity, means it can pull the electron density towards itself. But it is not as electronegative as fluorine. Okay. So, this property is important because, see, it influences that how the molecule stabilizes its negative charge after a proton is being lost. So, because chlorine pulls electron towards itself, it creates a negative inductive effect, that is -I effect. So, this effect, they help to stabilize the conjugate base which is formed when an acid donates a proton. So, the stabilization of a conjugate base is quite crucial, and when the negative charge is left behind after losing a proton is stabilized, the acid is more likely to give up its proton. Okay, so the negative I effect from chlorine, it increases the acidic strength of chloroacetic acid. So if you see, since chlorine is less electronegative than fluorine, then I can say that ClCH2COOH is slightly less acidic than FCH2COOH. Okay, so the lower electronegativity means the stabilization of the conjugate base isn't as strong. So that is, the acidic strength is bit reduced compared to the fluorine atom. Now if we talk about C6H5CH2COOH. So here you will see this is phenyl acetic acid. Here a phenyl group is attached to the carbon which is next to this carboxyl group. Now if you see the phenyl group, they have a moderate negative inductive effect or minus I effect. That means they can withdraw electrons but not as strongly as chlorine or fluorine. Okay. Additionally, the phenyl group, they can provide some resonance stabilization to the conjugate base. Okay, so resonance, it allows the negative charge to be spread out over the molecule. And as a result, what happens? It stabilizes it and increases the acidity. But in this case, only to a moderate extent. Now, overall, the phenyl group is less electron withdrawing than fluorine or chlorine. So that is, I can say that this C6H51 is less acidic as compared to where the fluorine or chlorine was attached to the carboxyl group. Okay. Now we will see CH3COOH. Okay. So here you will see this is acetic acid and it does not have any electron withdrawing groups. Okay. So in this case, the absence of such groups means that the acetic acid is not as strong as the others which we have discussed. So the only group which is attached to the carboxyl group is a methyl group. And methyl group, it pushes the electrons towards the carboxyl group. Okay. So this methyl group has positive I effect or positive inductive effect. So as a result, what happens? This makes the carboxylate ion less stable after losing a proton. Okay. So the acetic acid is weaker than the acids which have electron withdrawing groups. Okay. So here, as I've told, there is less stabilization of the conjugate base. So therefore, acetic acid is weaker acid compared with the other electron withdrawing groups. Next, if we see CH3CH2COH, which is an ethanol, then ethanol is an alcohol. Okay. So when an ethanol loses a proton, it forms alkoxide ion. So unlike carboxylate ions, alkoxide ions, they are not stabilized by the resonance. Okay. So in this case, you will see in alkoxide ions, the negative charge cannot be spread over multiple atoms. Okay. Because in alkoxide ions, they are not resonance stabilized. So negative charge is localized only on one oxygen atom. So because the conjugate base is less stable, so ethanol is much weaker acid than any of the carboxylic acids which we have discussed. Okay. And this, students, you need to remember that this is a key reason that why alcohols, they are generally less acidic than carboxylic acids. So if we put all this information together and we arrange the decreasing order of acidic strength, then we can say the most acidic is this carboxylic one and the least acidic is this ethanol, which is an alcohol. And specifically in carboxylic group, where a fluorine atom is attached to the carbon next to this carboxyl group. Okay. So this is the overall decreasing order of acidic strength. Okay. So I hope this is clear. Thank you, students, so much for your attention. I hope that the questions which we discussed are clear to you. Hope you all have a good day. Thank you.